Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Stories Right Outside Your Door. Today we are in the Old City. I had to do some work in the Old City today. I had to do some filming for something, and I figured if I'm already here, let's do a story that's not only outside your door, but a story that is outside a little bit of what we normally do. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Christianity. Now you might be asking, what's a good Jewish boy doing talking about Christianity? Well, there's a bunch of reasons. Um, most obvious is I'm a tour guide, and as a tour guide, you have to learn about everything that happens in Israel, not just the specific things that apply to your life. You have to learn about the entire history, and Christianity is an important part of the history of Israel. But beyond that, I think it's a good idea for all of my viewers. I know that this show goes out to hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and obviously many of them are Christians. But there are a lot of Jewish viewers also, and I want my Jewish viewers to understand the Christian history of Jerusalem that they might not necessarily know. So right behind me is a church by the name of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the place that Catholics believe is the place where Jesus ended up being crucified, buried in a sepulchre. Sepulchre is a burial cave, and then was resurrected. Now I say Catholic specifically because Protestants have a different idea of where that all took place. If you know where the Protestant location is of the crucifixion and the Protestant sepulchre location, let me know. Don't write it in the comments because that'll give it away to people who are watching this later. Give a thumbs up in the comments, and I'll say it at the end of the video. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that I have a YouTube page, and I want everyone to like and subscribe to the YouTube page because not only do you get all these videos that I do, but I also do another series of videos called The Story is Right Outside Your Door. Sorry, that's this one. I also do another series of videos called Pop Culture on the Parsha, where I take each week's Torah portion and I connect it to some aspect of pop culture. This week, I'm connecting it to King Arthur. So if you like King Arthur, tune in to my YouTube channel to see that video. Okay, so what is this church behind me? What is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? What is this all about? Basically, according to the Christian Bible, which I'm going to be treating as a true story. As I have no problem as an Orthodox Jew, I have no problem believing 99% of the stories that are written in the Christian Bible. I have a couple of issues here and there, and I'm going to get to one of them soon. I know I'm so dark and blurry. I'm sorry. I'm standing in the shadow, and I can't go down below because even though it's a couple of steps away, the reception is even worse down there than it is over here. So I know that I'm coming out dark, and in terms of reception, it's not that great over here either. But this is the best shot that I can get. I apologize for that. Nothing I can do about it. Sorry, sweetheart. And to all the other viewers who have similar concerns, there's nothing I can do. I apologize about that. I'm a victim of circumstance in this case. Anyways, so what happened was Jesus was a really popular teacher, rabbi up in the north in the Galilee where he lived. He lived up in Nazareth. If you lived in Nazareth, then what is the Church of the Nativity doing in Bethlehem? That's a different story altogether. But he lived up in Nazareth. Very popular teacher, very charismatic, gaining a lot of large crowds of people who were coming to listen to what he had to say. And what he had to say went against the traditional Jewish line at the time. The power of the Jewish people at the time in terms of their teaching, in terms of religious control, were in the hands of people who weren't 100% great. Then that's putting it mildly. There's a lot of corruption going on. And basically, they had kept a lot of their teachings to themselves. Hi, shalom. בסדר גמור. יונתן ברג.
מה אתה עושה?
סתם אני מסביר קצת על הכנסייה.
כן, אתה יודע, זה אסור. אתה צריך שלושת העדות, שתוכל לצלם כאן.
וואי, זה אני לא ידעתי. אז בסדר, אז אני אזוז. אפשר לצלם בחוץ?
יעני.
אחלה, ממש תודה רבה לך.
זה נגדה?
בטח, בטח. Just a local police, זה שידור חי. זה שידור חי. So my local police is letting me know that I'm not allowed to film here without a permit. And since I don't have a permit to film here, I'm going to take this outside and we'll talk about the church just outside church grounds. אין בעיה, אין בעיה, אני מבין ב100%. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. My microphone was turned off. Thank you. Thank you for the tip. My microphone turned off. Anyways, I don't know when it turned off. Yeah, it was a little bit exciting. Thanks, Sharon. So I don't know where I left off. So I'm going to start from what I was talking about in terms of Jesus being a popular teacher. I have to hurry this up because my phone is dying. Like I said, I was filming a lot today, so my phone might die in the middle. If it does, I'll let you know the answer to the trivia question later. But in any case, the establishment, the Jewish establishment at the time, was not really all that keen on Jesus, a lot of Jesus's teachings. Basically, from what I can understand, he was allowing access to a lot of Jewish teachings that most of the rabbis at the time didn't want the average person having access to. They wanted it to be something that would be exclusive, something like an elite priestly or an elite intellectual class, and then there was the working class who didn't need to know all those things. And Jesus was opening up these teachings to the lower classes, and that was not cool in the eyes of the of that elite. Anyways, for whatever reasons, we're not going to go into all the details, but he comes down to Jerusalem. And when it comes to Jerusalem, he starts causing a ruckus. He and his followers start causing a ruckus in Jerusalem. And he catches the attention of a lot of the higher-ups here in Jerusalem, priests, rabbis, people who are not so happy with the way that he's handling things. And so what happens is that they have him arrested and brought before I would call it the Sanhedrin, which is like the high court of Judaism, but it was more of a kangaroo court than an actual trial. And they try him for the crime of claiming to be Mashiach, claiming to be the anointed one who is going to be redeeming the Jewish people. This trial is a farce, and it is not a kosher trial by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. And then he is because this, even though he's found guilty in this fake trial, he's not allowed. They're not allowed to execute him. They would want to execute him because apparently they decided that his crime is a capital crime, but they don't execute him. They hand him over to the Romans, which in and of itself is a violation of all kinds of Jewish taboos. You don't hand over criminals to foreign powers. We've had bad luck with foreign powers in the past, so you just don't do that. In any case, they hand him over to the Romans, and the Romans they question him and they say, "Okay, did you claim to be the Messiah?" Now, the Messiah doesn't just mean Savior as we understand it today. Messiah in Hebrew is Mashiach, and Mashiach means the anointed one. Anointed one, who do you anoint? You anoint a king. So by claiming that he's the Messiah, that's claiming that he's a king. That's an independent power from the Romans who have an emperor. And so it's basically treason to announce that you're an independent king. That's why he was handed over to the Romans. That's why the Romans found this so disturbing. So they have, again, just not a really great trial system. And they ask him, are you saying that you're king of the Jews? And he's like, hey, I didn't say it. You said it. So he is convicted of being the king of the Jews, and of which is basically treason, as I said before, convicted of treason, and he is then sent to be crucified. Now, crucifixion was a standard method of execution at the time at the hands of the Romans. So, according to the Christian Bible, he is given his cross, and he is made to carry the cross outside the city of Jerusalem. Now, it's important that it's outside the city of Jerusalem because they didn't execute people within the city. If you come here today where I'm standing, this is inside the city gates. So how could this be the proper place? Well, the answer is the walls of the city changed over time. And at the time that this took place, around the year 30 or so, 33 in the Common Era, this would have been inside the city gates. Did the Sanhedrin know the Romans would declare it as treason? Absolutely. The Sanhedrin knew 100% that the Romans would declare it as treason. That's why they handed him over. They wanted Jesus to be killed. They just didn't have the authority to execute him themselves. The Romans wouldn't allow religious courts the authority to execute people. So they definitely knew that this would be a capital offense. They did it intentionally. Anyways, so Jesus takes his cross and he starts to walk out of the city. On his way, while he's walking out of the city, various things happen to him. In commemoration of all these things that happened to him on the way, later Christians have established churches along the way. It's known as the Via Dolorosa. Via Dolorosa literally is Latin. It means the way of sorrows. and it's all of the things that happen. It commemorates all the things that happened to Jesus on his way to the crucifixion. The first station of the cross is where he was convicted. The second station of the cross is where he was beaten by Roman soldiers, whipped by Roman soldiers, trying to get him to recant his claim of being the king of the Jews. Then the third station of the cross, he takes the cross and when he walks the third station, he stumbles. The fourth station is where he meets his mother. The fifth station is where a kindly Jew by the name of Simon of Cyrene takes the cross from him for a short period of time, but then he has to take it back. The sixth station is where he meets Veronica, a woman, a Jewish woman who is so saddened by what she sees, this display of this Jewish man being beaten by the Romans and forced to carry the cross, and she wipes his face, and she gets the blood and the sweat off of his face. The seventh station, he falls again under the weight of the cross because it's a big cross. The eighth station is where he meets the weeping women of Jerusalem. The ninth station, which is just down the block over here, he stumbles again under the weight of the cross. And then the last few stations of the cross are actually inside the Church of the Sepulchre. And the last few stations are where his robe is taken off of him. He is nailed to the cross. The cross is then picked up and he dies on the cross. The next station is when he's taken off of the cross after he has died and he's put onto a stone where his body is cleansed. Now, in modern audiences, and they hear that, someone taking the body down and cleansing the body, it sounds very respectful and sounds very mystical almost. To a Jewish audience, it sounds normal because everyone knows, those who have the misfortune to know someone who passed away, they know that there's an organization called the Chevra Kadisha, and their job is to clean the body before burial. It's something that is done to this day amongst Orthodox Jews. And since Jesus was a Jew, that's exactly how his death was handled. He was taken off of the cross, his body was cleaned, and then he was put into a burial cave. Someone by the name of Joseph of Arimathea owned a burial cave right near that spot, and that's where Jesus was buried. And that's either the 14th or the 14th and 15th station. According to some, it's the 14th station because that's where he was buried, but it's also the 15th station because that's where he was resurrected. And the story goes on that Jesus came back to life as a godlike figure, and the story continues on from there. I'm not going to go into the story, but those last 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and maybe 15 stations of the cross, the last 5 or 6 stations of the cross, are inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Why over there? Why was it chosen to be in that spot? That's because in the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine decided to allow Christianity to be legal. Before that, Christianity was illegal. The Emperor Nero was famous for torturing Christians. Whether or not all the stories, to the extent of how much he tortured them, is true is irrelevant. The idea is that he hated Christianity and it was illegal. But in the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine not only allowed it to be legal, but he supposedly he embraced Christianity, and he sent his mother, the Empress Helena, to come here and search for the site of the crucifixion. And according to that story, she found 3 crosses because according to the Christian Bible, Jesus was crucified along with 2 other people. She allegedly found 3 crosses right in this area, which is right next to a rock-cut sepulcher, a rock-cut burial cave, which really it does match up with the story in the Bible itself. Is it definitive proof? It's hard to say anything biblical can have definitive proof, whether it's from the Jewish Bible or the Christian Bible. It's really difficult to find definitive proof of much of anything. So yes, they did find crosses and a burial cave here, but if there was an execution site next to a graveyard in modern times, and you found bullet shells on the floor by the execution site near a graveyard, does that necessarily mean that the person that you're looking for was executed right there and buried nearby? Maybe, but not necessarily. And that's why the Protestants believe that it happened someplace else, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. In any case, the Empress Helena and the Emperor Constantine had a church. They commissioned a church to be built right over here. That church was actually 2 separate basilicas and 2 separate buildings, one commemorating the site of the crucifixion, one commemorating the site of the burial and resurrection. But that church, those two buildings were destroyed over time, both because of natural means. There were earthquakes and things like that, but also because of things that people done. There were people that destroyed the church. The Persians destroyed it in the 7th century. There were other fights in the early Muslim period. There were things that damaged the church as well. And over time, it just the dome had collapsed, and other things that happened. There were fires, unexplained fires that racked the church over the course of time. And after a while, that church basically was destroyed. Those two buildings were basically destroyed. And it was during the Crusader period that they rebuilt the church into what it is now. The little bit that you were able to see behind me when I was standing in there, that was built during the Crusader period, which is quite a long time. The Crusaders came here at the tail end of the 11th century, beginning of the 12th century. So it's been here for quite a long time. It's one of the oldest structures that's still in use for its original purpose anywhere in the city of Jerusalem. What's really cool about it is that it's home to a number of denominations of Christianity. Now, obviously not Protestants. As I said, Protestants have a different tradition. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But the Roman Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Syriac, Egyptian Coptic, Ethiopian, all these different sects of Christianity are all home. They all call that their home. But there have been fights over the years. If you think that there's a divide between Ashkenazi Jews and Sephardi Jews, or between, I don't know, Mizrahi Jews and American Jews, whatever it might be, it's nothing compared to the infighting and faction brawls that have taken place in Christianity. There have been literally bloody brawls over a block of floor space in that church. Some of them, unfortunately, have been fatal as well. And it got so out of hand that the Ottomans in, I believe it was 1750s, decided that that's it. Whatever you have now, that's how it's going to stay. Nothing's going to change. They instituted a law of status quo, meaning the status quo is going to stay as it is forever. And that's why there's I can't show it to you right now, but I don't know if you saw it earlier. There's something called the Immovable Ladder. There's a ladder just outside one of the windows of the church. It's a wooden ladder. It's literally just a ladder made out of wood. It was put there in the 1720s, and it's not allowed to be moved. The ladder was used so that some people can get in and out of the church just using the window rather than using the door, because they couldn't exit the door of their room, because the room belonged to one sect of Christianity, whereas the hallway belonged to another sect, and the ones that had control of the hallway didn't want to let the ones in the room go into their hallway. It was like really that difficult to get for everyone to get along. So they used a ladder to get in and out. That ladder has to stay there. It's called the Immovable Ladder. There are a lot of Christians who see that ladder as a sad sight. They see that as a sight of as something that exemplifies the factioning and the fighting and infighting that is still taking place to this day to a certain extent, and it's a sad sight for them. But to other people, it seems to be just a curiosity. So that being said, the differences. Talking about the differences in Christianity, as I said in the beginning, this is where the Catholics believe that all that took place. Where do the Protestants believe that it took place? The Protestants believe that it took place someplace outside the city, the modern old city walls, just outside the Damascus Gate. There's a place where they believe was the crucifixion site. And next to it, they have there's another sepulcher called the Garden Tomb, which is where they believe that Jesus was then placed into the tomb and was resurrected from there. They don't contradict the story in the Bible at all. They still believe that all those things happened to Jesus. The idea of him carrying the cross, the idea of him walking all the way, they just think that it happened in a different direction and that he ended up in a different spot. So that's why there are two separate locations for that. So any of you who knew the answer, I'm happy that you knew that answer. But that's a little bit of an insight into Christianity in Jerusalem. I hope that this was enlightening. I hope that you guys learned a little bit about our wonderful capital city here. If you have if I missed anything, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me also know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer anything that I might have missed, anything that I might have skipped over. I'm rushing a little bit because, like I said, my battery is very quickly draining away. So we've been doing this already for 21 minutes. I'm hoping that my battery holds out for another half a minute or so, just enough for me to tell you to like this video, share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can see this video as well as my other series, Pop Culture and the Parsha. And that's it. You got to see a little bit of action when I was kicked away by the police, very politely and very professional, I might add. We'll see what happens next week. Until then, take care, everybody.